other professors. In today's lesson, my proposal is to continue working on something I began to do here some lessons ago, and that is this important intention. That is this moment in life when you show interest, when you want to ask information of different people. So again, in today's lesson, we're going to go over some of the main meanings that we had the possibility to study in previous lessons. So let's take a look at the slide and analyze today's most important objectives. So the art of keeping a conversation going. We're going to use a number of interrogative sentences or utterances. And once again, the most important meaning, as we were able to see in previous lessons, is asking for information. And around that central meaning, that is when you want to get information, you have others. You corroborate information. You're not very sure about something, so you need to corroborate. You need to confirm that information. Sometimes when you're asking for information, you want to clear up a doubt because you want to get more, you want to be certain about something, and you're expressing doubt in that moment. And something important that we have seen in previous lessons is when we express interest. So not only should you, let's say yes or no. Yes, I did. No, I didn't. And for example, if somebody asks you about what did you do last weekend, and you say, well, I visited my grandmother. So maybe you say you did. Okay, that's fine. And if the conversation stops there, sometimes, it doesn't mean that you have to ask questions all the time, but sometimes my advice is show interest. Ask different questions, but careful because you might ask an incorrect question. For that reason, in today's lesson, I think it is important to take into account how appropriate it is to ask a question. You might get too noisy with people, so careful. For that reason, I propose to go over some of these meanings and the way they are expressed in the language. I know we saw them in a previous lesson, but today maybe we have another possibility to check these examples. So take a look at the slide. So as we have seen, asking for general information. You want to satisfy a specific need. You want to get that piece of information. Did you study last night? Yes, I did. Just remember that in order to ask for information, we use a lot of auxiliary verbs. In this case, we want to get information about a past action. You want to get more information? What did you study? And the person answered, I studied math. You want to corroborate information. You have some previous information about a new teacher, but you're not very sure, so you need to corroborate. She's the new teacher, isn't she? She's the new teacher, isn't she? And I hope you remember that this is something we call in grammar tag question. Esta es la estructura que en español, esa coletilla que en español utilizamos para corroborar una información muy conocida, que es cuando yo le digo a alguien, ¿verdad? Ella es la nueva profesora, ¿verdad? No. Ahora en inglés, esta partícula tiene una manera muy peculiar de formarse y sobre esto vamos a estar haciendo ejercicio más tarde. So, corroborating information. Let's take a look at the slide again. She's a new teacher, isn't she? You can also use interjections, such as right, a. This is very common in Canadian English. A. Los canadienses utilizan mucho esta expresión de a, o sea, esta partícula, esta coletilla para corroborar información. O sea, lo que para nosotros sería verdad. Ellos dirían, you are Raydel, eh? It's very common that they use that. All right, let's continue. Let's see how other meanings are expressed. And one of them is when you're clearing up a doubt. The level of uncertainty is very high. A letter has arrived for you. It has. A letter. So I hope you remember that we make like an echo. Esta es una pregunta que usted hace como un eco de lo que se dijo anteriormente y le hace un eco a alguno de los elementos que se producen. Y es muy común en inglés no poner el auxiliar en este tipo de preguntas. Así que si usted no ve auxiliar, no se asuste. Es que es la característica de este tipo de estructura. So again, a letter has arrived for you. It has. A letter. Hasta más, podría yo repetir ese parlamento completo y decir, a letter has arrived for me. Okay. Something else important for communication is when we show interest. I went to Trinidad last week. You did? I'm glad to hear that. So in this case, the person is showing happiness because of that. You can also use some expressions such as, uh-huh, really, okay. So just remember how important it is to keep a conversation going, to ask for information, to show interest, to corroborate that. In today's lesson, we're going to have the possibility to watch a video, and in this video, we're going to analyze how these messages are used in a conversation between two friends. So our first video will be played very soon. But first, let's see what our task is. So there we have our first exercise in the lesson. And it's a very difficult task because you're going to have to write or take some notes. I know it is complicated. And in these tasks, I want you to write down some of the structures that are used to express the following meanings. So these intentions that we saw last lesson and in today's lesson too, asking for information. So it's general question to satisfy general need. It's very general, this meaning. Clearing up a doubt. So what kind of elements do they use for that? Corroborating information and showing interest. So maybe you want to take some seconds. Quizás les voy a dar algunos segunditos para que copien una vez más estos significados. Y les recuerdo que es normal que se confunda el significado de pedir información porque es muy general. Pero es el significado que subyace en ese, digamos, campo de necesidades, de intenciones, y se podría, digamos, confundir con alguno de los otros, pero los otros son muy específicos. En el caso de aclarar una duda, clearing up a doubt, the level of uncertainty is high. El nivel de incertidumbre es muy alto porque usted quiere aclarar esa información. No así en el caso cuando usted corrobora una información. Y bueno, a la hora de mostrar interés, muchas partículas lo pueden hacer. Es normal que se solapen algunos de estas estructuras para transmitir esos significados. Right? So, asking for information, clearing up a doubt, corroborating information, and showing interest. Right? So I hope you're ready. Don't worry, I'm going to play it for the first time. Just take a few notes. Later we share. And finally, we have a second chance to watch this video. So, ready? I hope you are. Come on.
Hi, Rick. How was your weekend?
My weekend? It was terrible.
Really? What happened?
Do you really want to know?
Of course.
Well, on Saturday, my mom and dad went away for the day.
Yeah?
There's a pizza in the refrigerator.
And here's the number at Aunt Helen's.
Thanks, Dad.
Cook the pizza for 15 minutes.
See you at 11 tonight.
And don't burn it.
Okay. All right, see you tonight. Bye.
So what happened?
Well, they left at 1 o'clock, and I was hungry.
Uh-huh.
So I put a pizza in the oven.
Yeah?
And then I called Julia on the phone. We talked for about an hour.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right.
So what did you do?
I ran back upstairs and I called the fire department. Yes, 2525 Perry Avenue. Fire! Hurry!
Did a fire truck come?
Yes, it did. And the firemen put the fire out.
Oh, well, that's good.
No, that's bad. There was water all over the kitchen.
Did you clean it up?
Yeah, I cleaned it up. It took 2 hours, from 2 to 4 o'clock.
So then what did you do?
Do you really want to know?
Of course.
Well, I was really hungry,
Uh-huh.
so I went to the store to get a pizza.
Yeah.
And I drove there in my dad's new car.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I got back, and guess what? I drove the car into the garage door. Oh, no.
Oh, was your father angry?
Well, my parents came home late that night, but the next day,
And what about your mother?
she thanked me.
She thanked you?
Yeah, she said, the kitchen. It's so clean.
Well, anyway, that's good. So what did you do on Sunday?
I found a part-time job at the pizza shop.
The pizza shop? You?
Yeah, garage doors are expensive, George, and I need the money.
Well, cheer up, Rick. I'll buy you an ice cream.
Gee, thanks, George.
Okay. Has it ever happened to you? You were home alone and you were not doing the right thing. So he's telling the story to his friend, and his friend is showing interest. His friend is showing sympathy for what happened to him. And when you're doing that, you're showing interest. You're asking questions. You want to know what happened. The boy burned the pizza. So what happened? What did he do? Or what was he doing when he burned a pizza? He was talking to his friend. And then his friend is asking questions and questions. And let's see how many questions you were able to write down. Are you ready? If you wrote 2, 3, that's great. No problem. Maybe in the second time you will get more. So let's take a look now at the screen and check the answers. So, general questions to ask for information. How was your weekend? So, George, how was your weekend? Do you really want to know? Okay, so after these questions, he starts telling the story. So, remember that he burned a pizza and he couldn't put that fire out. Él no podía apagar ese fuego, ¿no? Tenía que llamar a alguien. ¿A quién llamó? A los bomberos. He called the fireman. And that's why there is a question there. Did the fire truck come? Fíjense que en algún momento él llama a los bomberos y el amigo, ¿no? Le pregunta si finalmente los bomberos llegaron a tiempo. Did the fire truck come? Fire truck, ese es el camión de los bomberos. So, after the fire truck left, there was water all over the place. And there's a question. Did you clean it up? Did you clean up the mess? There was water all over the place. Los bomberos echaron mucha agua. La cocina estaba llena de agua. So, did you clean it up? Then, what did you do? ¿Qué hizo George después de eso? Right? What did he do after that? He went to a pizza shop to get a pizza. Right? And guess what? Y adivina qué. Cuando regresa de la pizzería, le dice al otro, esta es una pregunta que ayuda mucho a seguir brindando información. Guess what? So what did he do? He drove his father's new car into the garage door. Imagínese usted que al carro nuevo de su papá lo choque, ¿no? Y es cuando el amigo le pregunta, was your father angry? What do you think? Was his father angry? He was very angry, right? And on Sunday, he, let's say, he had to do something else. So what did he do on Sunday? He had to, let's say, get a part-time job. Tuvo que conseguir un trabajo y que no fuera a tiempo completo. So he got a part-time job. So in general, these are some questions that were used to ask for information. Maybe you want to get or have some seconds to write down some of these, and don't worry, you will check them later. Ahora unos segunditos para que usted pueda copiar algunas de estos enunciados que fueron utilizados en el diálogo. Después seguimos con más. Okay, so asking for information, general questions, but as we have studied in today's lesson, there are specific meaning that underline that general intention of asking for information. Let's take a look at the slide again and analyze the way these two meanings, clearing up a doubt and showing interest, are expressed. So there we have, she thanked you. And the main indicator here to make this a question is intonation. Fíjense que aquí el auxiliar, como no está presente, no nos permite saber si es una pregunta o no. Por lo tanto, el indicador principal de que es una pregunta sería la entonación. She thanked you. Ese eco lleva a esa entonación hacia arriba, ¿verdad? Porque es una pregunta de sí o no. She thanked you. The person is surprised. The pizza shop? You? Right? He doesn't believe that Rick has a job in the pizza shop. So the pizza shop, you, Rick? Maybe Rick doesn't like to work that much. That's why his friend is asking, right, for information. And he's clearing up a doubt. He doesn't believe it. Él no está seguro. Él está dudoso de que su amigo Rick pueda estar realizando un trabajo no los domingos. Now, there are other sentences to express interest. Really? What happened? Yeah. All right, he wants the conversation to go on. Uh-huh. Uh-oh. Right? Uh-oh. Okay, so after analyzing every meaning, asking for information, clearing up a doubt, and showing interest, I think it would be a great idea to watch the video again and check your answers. So let's watch it again, and you tell me later if you understood. Go ahead.
Hi, Rick. How was your weekend?
My weekend? It was terrible.
Really? What happened?
Do you really want to know?
Of course.
Well, on Saturday, my mom and dad went away for the day.
Yeah?
There's a pizza in the refrigerator.
Uh-huh.
And here's the number at Aunt Helen's.
Thanks, Dad.
Cook the pizza for 15 minutes.
See you at 11 tonight.
And don't burn it.
Okay. All right, see you tonight. Bye.
So what happened?
Well, they left at 1 o'clock, and I was hungry.
Uh-huh.
So I put a pizza in the oven.
Yeah?
And then I called Julia on the phone. We talked for about an hour.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right.
So what did you do?
I ran back upstairs and I called the fire department. Yes, 2525 Perry Avenue. Fire! Hurry!
Did a fire truck come?
Yes, it did. And the firemen put the fire out.
Oh, well, that's good.
No, that's bad. There was water all over the kitchen.
Did you clean it up?
Yeah, I cleaned it up. It took 2 hours, from 2 to 4 o'clock.
So then what did you do?
Do you really want to know?
Of course.
Well, I was really hungry,
Uh-huh.
so I went to the store to get a pizza.
Yeah.
And I drove there in my dad's new car.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. I got back, and guess what? I drove the car into the garage door.
Okay, so did you analyze some of these questions? Great. So remember, it's Monday morning, and you talk to your friend, to your coworker, to your classmate, and the first thing you do is ask for information, showing interest, right? You keeping eye contact and following that conversation. So we were able to analyze 3 important meanings: asking for information, clearing up a doubt, and the other one that is to show interest. Now, I think it will be necessary to practice another meaning, and I will try to give you an exercise in which you have to go over a specific structure, and that is the structure we use when we want to corroborate information. I hope you remember that, because we saw it at the beginning of this lesson. How you corroborate information is generally expressed by a tag question. So next exercise, let's see it on the slide. You're talking to someone, and you want to corroborate the information provided by using the correct tag question. So she has returned from China. Remember that in the tag question, you write, first of all, the auxiliary verb used at the beginning with the opposite polarity, and then the personal pronoun. So just be careful with the use of auxiliary verbs. That tag question is, let's say, very useful in English. So I will give you some seconds, and you want to copy them and do the exercise. So take your time. So remember, when we are using this kind of structure, you have to put, first of all, the auxiliary verb with the opposite polarity than the personal pronoun. I hope you did a great job, didn't you? Let's check your answers. So there we go. She has just returned from China. Hasn't she? She has just returned from China, hasn't she? So if the auxiliary verb at the beginning is has, then you have this auxiliary verb with the opposite polarity, hasn't she? Number 2, Anna and Gabriel are siblings. And the meaning of siblings is hermanos. ¿Por qué? Ana es ella y Gabriel es él. Por lo tanto, yo ahí no podría decir they are brothers, porque brothers se refiere a dos hermanos varones. Por lo tanto, cuando tenemos una hermana y un hermano, sería incorrecto decir o utilizar la palabra brothers. En ese caso, en inglés tenemos el término siblings. So, Anna and Gabriel are siblings, aren't they? Number 3, that exercise isn't correct. Is it? Number 4, Cidelda brought the cake, didn't she? And here is not very, let's say, apparent that you have you don't see the auxiliary verb at the beginning, but you know the action occurred in the past. So if that action occurred in the past, you have to use the most common auxiliary verb for the past. That is, didn't. Cidelda brought the cake, didn't she? Number 5, you haven't studied German before, have you? And finally, you will come with me now, won't you? Well, it's an action that will happen, maybe not. It's an action that will happen in the future, and I just want to make sure if this is something you will do with me. You will come with me now, won't you? Okay, so I'm sure you did a great job, didn't you? You did a great job, didn't you? Right? I just want to confirm, I want to corroborate that what you're doing at home is correct. Of course you did a great job. I'm sure of that. Well, as I said at the beginning, and we saw in some of the objectives, sometimes asking a question or corroborating an information is really difficult because you might ask for a very delicate piece of information. So we need to be ready to ask about certain elements in communication, right? Would you like to take a look at the slide and see what or some of these elements that might be like taboo topics to ask about? So appropriateness or appropriacy when asking about some issues. So what is the context? What is the relationship between speakers? Remember, it is important to activate your meaning according to these variables. So, do you ask about age? Do you ask a woman about her age? Is that polite? She might get angry, so you need to be careful in some occasions. What about the weight? What is the meaning of weight? El peso corporal de alguien. Weight, que es el sustantivo, weight is the noun, and to weigh, without the T, would be the verb. Is that okay to ask someone how much she or he weighs? En muchas ocasiones vemos a los amigos y le decimos, pero fulano, ¿cómo has engordado? ¿O qué flaco te has puesto? Y eso en otras culturas no se puede decir. Hay que tener cuidado a la hora de hablar de aspectos de la estética, ¿no? De las personas. Careful. Don't talk about weight. You're so thin, or you're so fat. That is really inappropriate, my friends. What about money? Do you ask about money? How much money do you make? No, don't ask me that question. I'm not planning to share that information. How much money do you earn? Right? Maybe at home with your wife. Maybe yes, right? Because you share expenses. But not with a friend, or maybe not with someone you don't know. What about professions? So maybe in some occasions you can talk about it, but let's say it might be inappropriate in specific contexts. The topic of religions is one that might be inappropriate too. Don't talk about it because you might be offending the other person. The other person doesn't want to give you information about his religious ideology. And talking about couples, what things do you ask? Is it okay to ask someone, how long have you been together? Maybe yes, but you wouldn't ask about how do you get along? How do you and your girlfriend get along? Or how often do you go out? Or do you have a lot of arguments? Do you say that? That shouldn't be a question, right? That you ask of a person you know. So I have an invitation now. And the invitation is to analyze how some of these elements are, let's say, used in a conversation. Are they appropriate? Are you going too far? Are you asking the wrong question? Maybe the grammar is okay, but the intention and the context is not very nice, what you're asking that person. So we have some activities that I would like to do, or I would like you to do with my help. Please take a look. And you have exercise now. If you want, you don't need to copy. I just want to analyze this, let's say, exercise with you. And we are going to have 4 conversations. And we will determine the following. Who are the people and what is the situation? So here it is important to activate the relationship between people and the context. Is that question appropriate? Why? Sometimes the speakers don't answer. How should they reply? So sometimes when somebody asks the wrong question, do you answer the same way? If the person is using an inappropriate question, do you use something bad? Do you use a negative reply? Right? Remember that this is really important, my friends. So let's analyze the 4 conversations. Well, in conversation number 1, these 2 people are talking about the blood pressure. So blood pressure, I hope you know, is la presión arterial de un paciente. So your blood pressure is absolutely fine. Have you been eating normally? Who would ask you this question? Yes, that is a doctor. Oh yes, the same as normal. And do you take any regular exercise? Yes, I play squash twice a week. Tell me, how much do you weigh? So again, the verb, remember, it doesn't have a T. How much do you weigh? About 68 kilos. So the patient and the doctor are having this conversation. It's a conversation about the patient's health. Is this appropriate? Of course it is, right? You are at the doctor's office and they are talking about health problems. So in this case, yes, it is very appropriate. The doctor wants to get information about the patient's problem. All right, let's analyze now the conversation, or conversation number 2. Hello, I'm Gene Walker. We've just moved in next door. We've just moved in next door. Esto es un significado que hemos analizado en clases anteriores. Acabamos de mudarnos o al apartamento de al lado. Por lo tanto, es un nuevo vecino. It's a new neighbor. Again, hello, I'm Gene Walker. We've just moved in next door. Paul Burton, pleased to meet you, or nice to meet you. Do you work locally? Yes, I am a solicitor with a firm on the high street. A solicitor is a type of lawyer. A solicitor. That's a good job. How much do you earn? How much do you earn? Well, a conversation between 2 neighbors. One of them has just moved in, and the other person is asking about how much do you earn, how much that person earns. Is that appropriate? Not at all. Here, the neighbor, the solicitor, doesn't even give a reply. What reply would be appropriate for that question? So it's not very nice to ask that of someone you have just met. Let's see what happens in conversation number 3. Well, here we have a person looking for a white tennis shirt. Hello, I'm looking for a white tennis shirt. Okay, tennis shirts are over here. Well, this conversation, the person is looking for a garment, he's looking for a piece of clothing. And I'm sure you know that this would happen in a shop. Hello, I'm looking for a white tennis shirt. It is a conversation between a customer and a sales clerk. Okay, tennis shirts are over here. As you can see, I'll need a fairly large size, a very large size. Yes, I can see that. How much do you weigh? If you don't mind me asking, how much do you weigh? Okay? What do you think? So a customer and a sales clerk looking for a shirt, and the sales clerk is offering help. He's trying to help. So in this case, the question is appropriate, right? Because you want to help that person. You want that shirt to fit. For that reason, you're asking questions, and you're asking that question very politely. If you don't mind me asking, that is a peculiar to ask things or to ask about things very nicely. All right, so finally, conversation number 4. Gareth, and this is a conversation that takes place in a job interview. You have worked on this with Professor Garbey, what happens in the world of interviews. So let's see what happens here. Gareth, you will be delighted to hear that we would like to offer you the job. Great, thank you very much. We need to talk a bit about salaries. Right, yes, of course. Remind me, how much do you earn at the moment? About 35,000 a year. About 35,000 pounds, and that is a symbol for pounds, a year. Yes, well, we won't be able to give you more than that initially, but we should be able to match it. All right, so in a job interview, these two people are asking, right? Is it necessary to ask this question? Yes, of course. It is very necessary to ask this type of question when it comes to, let's say, this world of interviews. People work for a reason, right? So that is something to be taken into account. Okay, so what are we doing so far? We are working on how appropriate a question is when it comes to asking about your salaries, when it comes to asking about your job, and why not? Let's do an exercise in this moment. In the next exercise, it's going to be similar to the one we have just done. We're going to be talking. You don't need to write a lot of things. Let's just analyze how these expressions might be appropriate. We have expressions to, number 1, to ask questions, and other elements or other sentences to respond, to answer to personal questions. Are they appropriate? Yes or no? Let's see. Number 1. I hope you don't mind me asking, but, well, this is something that we saw in the previous activities, and this is very polite, but remember, you should take into account in what context this is taking place. In number 2, I'd rather not answer that, if you don't mind. I'd rather. Yo preferiría no responderle eso. Y fíjense de qué manera tan educada le está dando respuesta a algo que a lo mejor le hicieron una pregunta muy incorrecta. No responde de la misma manera. A lo mejor la persona fue incorrecta. The person was incorrect. The person was inappropriate or used an inappropriate question, and you shouldn't give an inappropriate reply. Okay? So, number 3, I know this is a bit noisy. Nose, ¿verdad? Viene de la nariz. I know this is a bit nosy, but yo sé que estoy como poniendo las narices en algún asunto. En este caso está la persona tratando de buscar información pero que no le compete. So the person is being nosy. De nariz. Está poniendo la nariz donde no le conviene. Bueno, esta queda como... This is like... It depends on the context. But anyways, careful with what you ask. It is, let's say, like neutral. Number 4, mind your own business. Oh, this person is really upset. Mind your own business. Ocúpese usted de sus problemas. ¿Y de qué manera? Esta persona está muy molesta. Mind your own business. Now, is this nice? Are you responding in a nice way? Not at all. You're so upset and you want the other person to know. Maybe you're not having a good day. Maybe the question you were asked is something you don't want to talk about. So, mind your own business. Number 5, why do you ask? So, it's, let's say, a neutral way to, let's say, ask for or to respond to a personal question. A veces, la respuesta a una pregunta puede ser otra respuesta. ¿Por qué usted pregunta? ¿Por qué me está preguntando eso? I want you to realize. Don't you realize what you're asking? Why do you ask that? Why do you want to know? What do you care? You're not being nice, so I just want you to see that what you're asking me shouldn't be asked. Let's continue. Number 6, can I ask you a personal question? All right, so you're asking for permission here. If the person says yes, so maybe the question is accepted. It's appropriate. Number 7, it is an answer. That's rather a personal question. Eso es más bien una pregunta muy personal. Yo no te la quiero responder. No obstante, yo quiero ser educado con usted que a lo mejor me hizo una pregunta incorrecta. That's rather a personal question. Number 8, I know this is a bit personal, but the person is asking very nicely, very politely, if he can ask a question. And number 9, I am afraid that's really none of your business. And this person is upset too. I am afraid that's really none of your business. Me temo que eso a usted no le importa. Bien molesto, porque para decir eso hay que estar molesto. So this is inappropriate, right, to answer this way. So I hope that you are learning how we can use questions and how appropriate there should be, or how appropriate your answer must be. I'm going to give you some seconds. Le voy a dar algunos segunditos para que copien algunas de estas y sobre todo que graben en su mente las más educadas. Aunque a veces le hagan una pregunta inadecuada, no responda de la misma manera. Trate de ser educado igual o trate de enseñarle a la otra persona que sea educada. Take some seconds. Okay, so remember, being nice is one of the most beautiful things in the world. You can ask questions, you can show interest, but careful, don't get too interested. Don't get so nosy, right? Do not put your nose into something that maybe is not your interest. Don't go that far. All right, so I hope that you remember that in today's lesson we are working really hard on different structures to express specific meanings, right? To ask for information, to show interest, and very important, as we have been analyzing here, is how polite you are in a conversation. So I invite you to do the last exercise in today's lesson, and we have a group of questions in this exercise. So here we have, let's say, some questions, as I was saying, and we should say if any of these people, a doctor or a police officer, should ask you these questions. A doctor, a police officer, or maybe nobody. Quizás nadie le pueda hacer esa pregunta a usted porque, en fin, es su, digamos, información personal y usted no quiere compartirla. So, decide who has the right to ask you the following questions. Choose from a doctor, a police officer. You can also write nobody. So, question number 1. Who do you live with? Can the doctor say that? I'm not very sure. Maybe if the doctor is asking for information about a disease and he wants to know if other people in the house has it, I think he might ask you that. Who do you live with? A police officer? Yes. Remember, police officers have the right to get specific information. Number 2, how tall are you? And I know that it's very common. You know that it is very common to ask this question when you go to the doctors. How tall are you? Number 3, what religion are you? Could a police officer ask that, about that? A doctor? I would write nobody in this case, though maybe a police officer can go a little bit deeper when he's solving a case. Do you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend? Well, a police officer might ask you that. So just remember that specific people can ask you specific questions in a certain context. It doesn't mean that now the police officer who lives next door, he can ask you all these questions. It's just a police officer in the police station, in the place where he works. How much do you weigh? As we have seen here, a doctor can ask you this question. This one about money, how much do you earn? I'm not very sure a doctor is going to ask you that. A police officer, how much do you earn? Maybe, in details. But for me, I would write nobody. Nobody has the right to ask you that. Maybe at home, maybe your wife, yes. So remember, we are just we're just analyzing a few contexts. It doesn't mean that things are like that, like very strict. Things are flexible in life. Things are flexible in communication. So these questions can be asked in specific context by specific people. Now we have another one. How much was the gift? So how much was the gift? Do you ask someone about this? How much was a gift? I mean, someone very nicely brings you something and you say, how much was it? A police officer or a doctor? No, nobody asks that question. You should never ask about it. Okay? So let's continue. And as a summary for today's lesson, I think it would be necessary to analyze other elements that are important in communication. And elements that we will analyze in the next lesson. So when you're asking, let's say, questions, or when you're talking to somebody, it is important to take turns in the conversation. Listen to the person, and also let the other person speak, right? Es importante tomar partido en la conversación. Escucha a la otra persona, pero que también lo escuchen a usted. Take turns in the conversation. Another important element is to be cooperative. As we have seen, you are showing interest. You want to get to know information about this, about something. And keeping eye contact, as you have analyzed with other professors, is important too. It shows that you're interested. You're not giving that person the wandering eye. No puede ser que usted esté hablando con alguien y la persona esté mirando hacia el lado. No le está mostrando respeto. The person is not showing respect. Number 4, what is the body language you use when you're talking? Be careful. We're going to be analyzing this, or these nonverbal meanings, in future lessons. Next, making use of polite expressions. And for example, if you're asking for a piece of information, as we have seen here, expressions like, would you mind? Would you like? Could you tell me? Would you be so kind? Something important too is the characteristics of that message. Are you giving a lot of information? Sometimes when we're talking, you're overwhelming people with a lot of words, and people feel kind of lost. And a very important meaning that we will work on in the next lesson is what strategies we use for communication. What strategies do we use, let's say, when someone is, let's say, giving you or asking you for something incorrect or something that is inappropriate? What strategies do you use? Do you use like an aggressive attitude, or do you find like a nice reply? What do you think? Yes, I am sure you're very nice. You're a very nice person, and you're excellent students, because in today's lesson we have had the possibility to work on different structures that we use to express different meanings. And so important is this moment when we are in different contexts. So what is the context? What is the person? Sometimes I have friends, I have colleagues at work, and with that colleague I talk to him on the phone, and I can ask him personal questions. So maybe we are at university and the professor is teaching, or the professor is, let's say, in a different context. Should I go personal with a colleague there? I'm not very sure, so the context changed. I have the same person, but the context changed. So communication is full of nice and important elements to take into account. So for today's lesson, this is going to be everything, and we will continue with more in future lessons. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.